Friends, what an exciting holiday release we have for Rephr. And if you're not familiar with Rephr, they are a makeup brush brand. Since their genesis in 2019 has added several other tools to their roster, but specifically specializes in Japanese made brushes, making these tools affordable to the community who would like to experience Japanese made brushes, but have an opportunity to try them at a lower cost. And this year, Rephr decided to kick it up a notch. A couple of notches actually. This drop is scheduled for October 1st, and I would like this video to be up before that so you can take a look at the brushes, get acquainted with them. I'll have my affiliate link down below in the description box, and thank you in advance for your consideration. You don't have to use my link, but if you choose to, thank you so much. For a little bit of perspective, last year Rephr released their limited edition Chikuhodo goat hair brush with the lacquer technique here on the matte black handle. And Chikuhodo goat hair is a high premium goat hair type. It is softer than Chikuhodo and Suqqu, silky on the skin, incredibly soft. And we have the sakura flowers here on the handle. And the general feedback, well, first of all, this brush sold out in a few hours once they dropped on the site, but the overarching feedback was like, this is cute, Rephr. We like this, it's beautiful, it's unlike anything you've released thus far, but we want a little more. We want a little more luxe. We want this to feel like a limited edition cheek brush that if you don't get it now, you're gonna regret it. So dramatic. So of course, Rephr listen, as they do, to all of their feedback, which is the foundation of their brand. They'll release ideas, they'll release prototypes, and they'll ask the consumer, the recipient, to provide feedback on these designs. What can be better? Different type of hair, different type of design, ferrule, crimp, all those details come into play. So they decided to not only kick it up a notch in terms of the bristles used, the lacquer technique on the handle, but how the brush is packaged. A total sensorial experience. Allow me then to present the Koyo brush, a mixture of Chikuhodo and gray squirrel to celebrate the Japanese fall season when maple leaves turn red and gold. I saw sneak peeks of this brush, okay? I gasped several times. You know how I feel about autumn. And if it's your first time watching one of my videos, hi, I'm Alicia, and I love the autumn season. To have a brush designed with the autumn inspiration in mind, everything from the box, the washi paper used to wrap the box and the brush inside, the maquille lacquer technique used on the handle, the gold gradient that fluidly moves into the red and gold leaf detail on the brush. And you have a single crimp here on the ferrule, a unique design that influences how the bristles settle and sit, a mixture of squirrel and Chikuhodo goat with this slant, and the box itself smells like cedar wood. If you decide to buy this brush, the Koyo brush, you will smell it right away. Just that rich, woodsy scent just from the box. You open it and you see the amber colored washi paper unveiling this beautiful tool. And I just had to break it down in that way because I think Rephr totally surpassed all of our expectations, surpassed our critique from last year's brush. We have a different blend. This is the first time Rephr has released a squirrel blend. Although not exclusively squirrel, maybe we'll get there someday. We have a hybrid, which is one of my favorite types of hybrids, and a lot lighter than if you were thinking about Bobo Chikuhodo collab brush from her Nebulae collection. I'll get to the comparison soon because we have to roll through the demo footage. If you want to skip over to that comparison, I have the timestamp down below or here along the time bar. This brush is wispy, and immediately when using it for the first time, I went to my softer powder formulas, and here I applied the YSL bronzer in 04 Warm Sandalwood. You could probably recognize the advantage of having this slant design where it fits perfectly into the hollows of the cheeks, but at the same time wraps around the rest of your cheek area, allowing the powder to beautifully diffuse in an even manner and a smooth one. Airbrushed, blurred, the application does not feel powdery, and the reason why I insist that you use this brush with a softer powder formula, because it is very flexible, not incredibly dense, so it has a floaty quality about it, and it's incredibly soft on the skin. It does feel, well, let me see here, it feels soft like the Chikuhodo goat hair brush from last year, but this has a little more stiffness to it. Stiffness doesn't mean rough, there's just a little more feedback from last year's brush versus this year, a lot more lightweight on the skin. And if you prefer that type of application where you don't want a ton of powder on the cheeks, just a veil of color, then this will be your brush. And again, I recommend that you use this brush with softer powder formulas, and I followed up with Suqq's blurring blush from their winter 2024 collection. And my goodness, the way the brush envelops the apples of my cheeks and evenly disperses the powder across my face, just in that diffused, blown out fashion without it completely taking over the center of my face. I think this is fantastic for beginners, because if you had trouble placing your blush successfully on the face, it was too low, it was too high, the brush design naturally hugs the region of the apples of the cheeks, whether you apply it in a circular fashion like I did on the demo, or you go with a striking fashion, or you just tap, because the brush itself is soft enough that a tap will lightly diffuse the powder. Now, because of the brush's soft flexibility nature, it's not going to be ideal with gelée types of formulas. So don't be disappointed if you wanted to dip into, I don't know, one of your favorite gelée blushes or gelée bronzers. This is not going to pick up as much as it will a softer powder formula. If you want more makeup, if you want more blush and bronzer on the cheeks, then definitely use this brush with a softer powder formula. If you still want to use your gelée textures, you can. It will pick up some, and you will have to build it up gradually, and will probably have to go back and forth in the pan a few times. But if you don't want to deal with that, just use the softer powders, okay? Now, because of the brush size, I primarily use this with bronzer and blush. You could use it with highlighter, and I'm trying to look for, let me see here. Well, this isn't quite a highlighter. It's from the Miyabi collection in the blurring blush formula, but I'm lightly tapping here on the light blue side, and you can whip on a soft serving of highlight. In fact, allow me to grab an Hourglass palette, hopping into the Evil Eye curation, tapping onto the highlight, and it does softly place highlight on the cheekbones in a way that's not, or rather will not appear as concentrated if you were to use a smaller highlighter brush. But if you only got this brush and you want to take a more economical approach to your makeup tools and just use one for as many cheek tasks as possible, you most certainly can just use the tip of the brush, as I am here, to place the highlight on your cheekbones. Again, albeit not in a concentrated fashion, it won't appear as reflective as if I would have used a much smaller brush that will pick up a little more product and have more of a precise application there on the cheekbones. But I do love it when highlight powder is more diffused, where you are left behind with a sheen or that pearly reflect on the skin, but it's not super glassy, right? I like the glassy and the super metallic highlighters. Okay, Lightwork 6, hello. But sometimes I like my highlighter to appear more diffuse and lightweight on the skin. And again, I applaud Rephr's effort in presenting the Koyo brush in a tremendous way. Everything from the packaging to the actual brush. It will retail, I believe, for 100 USD. My apologies for not mentioning that from the very beginning. I was just caught up with the design, okay? You open your package, you will smell the cedar wood right away. You could probably smell it through the box, okay, that it's delivered in. And I don't blame you if you don't want to use it, because it is just gorgeous. Everything from how the brush head is designed with the unique single crimp on the ferrule, and the maquillé lacquer work on the handle is just sensational. Look at the detail there, and happy they added this warm gold gradient, almost like a shimmer effect here on the handle. It's just a sight to behold, and I understand if you would just want to buy this as a collector's item and not want to use it or place it on display, keep the box, right? Just the choice is yours, but I am delighted that Rephr took it a step further for this year's brush. And quickly, I'll compare this to Bobo's brush, because you're probably wondering, well, if I have Bobo's brush, which is here, do I need the Rephr brush? You can see that Bobo's brush is smaller, although the slant is similar in design, and there is no single crimp here on the ferrule on Bobo's Chikuhodo collab brush. You can see this is stiffer than the Rephr brush. You could just maybe see that on the display here, how there's a lot more flexibility from the Koyo brush versus the Bobo Chikuhodo collab Nebulae cheek brush. And I would use this for the tougher to pick up textures that I spoke about when describing the advantages and disadvantages with the Koyo brush. Great for softer powders, great for gelé tighter powders for the cheek category. I'm not saying you need both, I'm just outlining the differences, okay? The Koyo brush is part one of their holiday release. The second part of their holiday release, which I am beyond excited to share. This is a special collaboration that Rephr wanted to create with the craftsmen from Kumano, Japan. Kumano is a city in Japan that is known for their brush making, specifically back in the day with the creation of calligraphy brushes. And of course, that craftsmanship evolved from making calligraphy brushes, which they still do, to making makeup brushes. Rephr thought, wouldn't it be kind of cool if we shared the artisanal legacy with our community in creating makeup brushes, but using calligraphy making techniques. So it's not like the eye brushes are calligraphy inspired. No. These makeup brushes were crafted with calligraphy brush techniques, and therefore I present the Shodo Eye Collection, named after the art of Japanese calligraphy, where artists create bold strokes, intricate lines, and accents, all with a single brush. Now we have the artistry in these three beautifully designed eye brushes. And what's unique about the design, again, as I had explained, these eye brushes weren't created with makeup brush making techniques. They were created with calligraphy brush making techniques, which is why you could probably recognize they appear a lot more wispy at the tips versus their makeup brush counterparts, which I can show you in a bit for comparisons. Rephr sent me these brushes a while back, and immediately when I tried them for the first time, I recognized just how beautifully soft and wispy the application of eyeshadow is because of the unique brush design. I'll start with 00, which likens to their original 01, but here is the Shodo 00 and here is the original 01 brush. You can see how the original 01 is far thicker, this thinner, but see the ends, how wispy they are compared to the 01. And what that allows, as you'll see here, me applying Dior's Celestial Purple again, because we had to see this eyeshadow palette in action one more time, that you could take the flat side of 00 to pick up product, place it on your lid. Now turn the brush on its side to then blend and diffuse that color through the crease. Because of the wispy ends, the brush just whips color effortlessly through the lids. And if you have mature lids or lid skin that moves a lot, this brush virtually grazes. It dances over your skin in a way that a typical makeup brush Can do, depending on how it's created. Now, understand, because of how these brushes are crafted, the end result is not going to be in your face eyeshadow, right? And why I decided to use the Dior palette, another palette I could have used would have been Suqqu or even Natasha Denona. The harder core formulas, for instance, like what's found in Lightwork 6, I wouldn't necessarily use these brushes with. I would use these brushes with softer powders, Viseart, for instance, hello, number one example, because I think these designs are fantastic just for that air whipped soft blurred finish on the lids. And with 02, listen, if you have small hooded eyes and you needed a small brush, even smaller than the Mini 14, which I have here, this is Shodo 02. And you can see how Shodo comes even to a finer point and how much flexibility there is at the tip, but there's nice body to the brush, like 3/4 down, where if you wanted, you could pick up product on that brush's side. But what I did here is threw on the plum shade under my lash line and then took another color through my inner arc. And fantastic if you love diffused eyeshadow under your lash line, as I do, but you could use the 00 brush instead to place color on the lower lash line, or even just use 02 to place color through your crease. If that's a tight space, the 02 would get in there just fine. And also, if you wanted to introduce another color here through the inner arc, 02 would be great for. Incredibly soft and flexible, but there's some strength to the brush as well. It's not flimsy through the lids. You can feel the product being applied. You can feel the control in your hand, but it's incredibly satisfying to rely on the calligraphy techniques used to create these tools to just feel that wispy, blurred out nature on the blend. It's hard to explain. You will have to use the brushes if you decide to purchase them. I understand. Then get back to me down in the comments. When you use the Shodo brushes, describe the experience that I think you are trying to translate to understand now, but it's something you have to feel for yourself to realize what I'm trying to lay out. And then we'll go into 03, the larger blender brush that, oh my goodness. Listen, if you had issues with outer lid blending in trying to diffuse a darker color for like that shaded winged look, my goodness, I dipped into the deep blue shade from Celestial Purple, and the way the brush picks up product, number one, but how it laid it evenly on my outer lid and just moved smoothly through the crease. I also brought it a little bit down on the lower lash line, but 03 is a little too large for my taste in lower lash line application. However, this brush is goated for the outer lid blend. Okay, for that smoke out. Even if you have larger eyes, you very much can still use the body of the brush to pick up product and take it on the lid if you like, turn the brush on its end and then pull it through the crease. And I'll quickly compare the Shodo 03 with a 15 mini. So not the original 15. Again, you can see how wispy the tips are from 03 versus the mini 15 or even the original 15, and that is what yields that air whipped, just blurred finish to your shadow. Incredible performance for the Shodo brushes, and I am thrilled that Rephr decided to think outside the box, and what a creative way to honor the legacy of Kumano brush makers, right? In relying on traditional Japanese calligraphy brush making techniques to create these 3-eye makeup brushes that you can experience for yourself and make a distinction between the eye makeup brushes Rephr has already created, between the Shodo one. Oh my goodness. Again, if you decide to buy them, come back to this video, write down your experience in the comments because I need to know. I know I love them and I'm trying my best because I'm not very articulate today, my apologies, in trying to provide a visual description with words, what you will feel with these eye brushes. And I think they are just beautifully crafted, insanely unique. And with the Koyo brush, this is too much. It's too much. Listen, I'm not saying you have to buy both, but one or the other you be good with. The Shodo brushes unfortunately don't come in the fancy cedar box. If you want to smell that beautiful woodsy scent, you will have to purchase the Koyo brush. The Shodo brushes will arrive in single plastic sleeves, and my sentiments are the same in regard to what I think an ideal texture and formula to use with these brushes. Again, softer powders with the Koyo brush, and I would say the same with the Shodo brushes, because I think the Shodo brushes, yes, they're made with Chikuhodo goat hair, so they're not delicate like a gray squirrel or a blue fox, right, or even KINKYSWEAT's pretty durable. But in terms of the more premium bristles out there, these I would consider workhorse brushes, but because of the calligraphy techniques used to create these tools, intuitively, I like to use softer textures and just have more of that wash of color on my lids and not it appear as heavy, which is why I mentioned brands like Viseart, Suqqu, Surat. I use the Dior palette. So those softer textures that might not be pow wow in terms of the finish, I like to use with the Shodo brushes because I'm just going for a different look altogether, an entirely different experience. But I wanted to give those examples just so you have an idea of what you can use with your Shodo brushes, again, if you decide to purchase the set. My apologies for not having the price for the Shodo eye set at this point of filming. I don't have that information, but I'm sure as we arrive closer to the first, I'll probably post something on my community board that will outline the price, that will also have my affiliate link and the link to this video if you want to see the brushes in action before you decide to purchase them. And again, a huge thank you to Rephr for sending these, but also taking the time to speak about the collaboration. Tom was kind enough to call me and explain the genesis behind Koyo and the Shodo brushes because he thinks this is an important collaboration, and the brand poured a lot of effort into making this happen and in making sure that our voices were heard in regard to the cheek brush and stepping it up for 2024, and boy did they. I cannot wait to know your thoughts down below. If you made it this far, please consider liking this video and perhaps subscribing. I have a ton of brush videos on my channel and a ton more in the making. And with that said, I'll see you here on next time. I'll see you down below in those comments. Until then, take care.